Folks, it is the NFL offseason for a majority of the teams around the league, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers included, which also means it is draft season for these teams as well. And I thought it would be fun to take a look at a mock draft by Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com, his mock draft 1.0. And Daniel Jeremiah is one of the most locked in tune with what teams are thinking in the NFL draft insiders out there. He's right up there with guys like Mel Kiper, one of the best in the business in sports media. So I want to take a look at who he has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting in his mock draft and give my analysis and thoughts on the selection that DJ has there. You do have some other situations. Obviously, the Chicago Bears, what are they going to do with the number 1 overall pick? Texans need a quarterback. Cardinals could possibly get one of the best players in the draft. Colts need a QB. A lot of different teams need a quarterback. The Raiders, the Falcons, the Panthers. I mean, the list can go on and on. There are definitely going to be some interesting shakeups, I feel, at the top of the NFL draft. But if we go all the way down here to pick number 19, the official selection that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are making in this draft, Daniel Jeremiah has a very interesting prospect here. Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State, who is a junior right now. And Forbes is 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. To read DJ's little snippet here, he is a slender playmaking cornerback prospect who knocked 3 pick sixes this past fall. He reminds me of a player I was around in Baltimore, Samari Rolle. And, Samari Rolle was a very good defensive back during his time in the league. And, of course, DJ doesn't necessarily go into much detail about the Buccaneers cornerback situation in this small snippet. I don't blame him. He has to talk about 31 other picks as well. But cornerback is definitely something I could see the Buccaneers going with here in the first round. You look at their situation. Carlton Davis is under contract for the next couple of seasons, but Jamel Dean's contract is up at the end of the year. Sean Murphy-Bunting's contract is up at the end of the year as well. I guess I should say very soon, right before the start of free agency. These guys are going to be free agents. They can sign with other teams. That's not a guarantee they're going to be back with the Buccaneers. Yes, they drafted a guy like Zion McCollum last year, but he is still a pretty raw prospect, a guy that is still going to need some time to grow and develop. And yes, they do play Antoine Winfield Jr. at nickel cornerback as well, but you are definitely going to need some reinforcements. You're not going to have a ton of cap space to work with in free agency, so you may have to look at some other alternatives, the draft being one of those alternatives. And I think Emmanuel Forbes is a cornerback that really does fit well with what Todd Bowles likes to do with corners. He's physical, tall enough. I feel like 180 pounds is, I think, a decent enough weight for some of the things that Bowles has done with his defensive backs in the past here. And he definitely does have a lot of versatility in his game as well. As DJ said here, slender playmaking cornerback. 3 pick sixes in this past season is not bad at all. But whenever you look at the scheme fit, whenever you look at the overall size and the need for the Buccaneers, this is a pick that could certainly make a lot of sense for the team moving forward. And look, I'm going to be going to a few draft type events this year. I'm going to be at the Senior Bowl. Obviously, Forbes is not going to be at that because he's not a senior, but I'm also going to look to be at the Combine as well. This is going to be one of those players that I am going to be taking a look at because it is a very tricky situation for the Buccaneers this year with cornerback. Jamel Dean has played very, very well this year. Honestly, quite possibly one of the best runs of his entire career so far up to this point. He's going to command a lot of money in free agency. So there is far from a guarantee that the Buccaneers could bring him back, especially with the lack of clarity on the Tom Brady situation. Of course, if he does come back to the team, that'll eat up a significant amount of cap space as well. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I feel like you could bring back relatively cheaply. He did make I think a little bit of a payday for himself at certain points throughout the early portions of his career, but the past year or so, he has not been the most consistent cornerback that we have seen. But I do think the Buccaneers could get him back, and he could be a starting caliber guy, even, just a solid number 3 cornerback in there as well. When I look at Emmanuel Forbes, I see him as a number 2 type of corner next to Carlton Davis. And I think that Forbes and Davis together could make a very solid cornerback duo with a lot of continuity for good defensive back play that we've seen in recent years by the Buccaneers. Health is always an issue with some of these guys. SMB has been dealing with injuries in the past. Jamel Dean has been dealing with injuries in the past. Carlton Davis has been dealing with injuries in the past as well. Haven't seen much of Emmanuel Forbes regarding any types of injury issues or things along those lines, so that is a very, very good thing to see. And I think overall this is a pick that just makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. With the need, with the scheme fit, with the development fit, I think that Bulls really could develop a guy like Forbes to be a very good type of corner. Maybe, you know, as good of a starting caliber corner that we see from guys like Jamel Dean or Carlton Davis with time. Give it a year, give it another year. We'll see how Forbes gets along if he were to be selected with that 19th overall pick. So that is a pretty overall decent selection in my opinion. You take a look at some of these other guys that are picked later in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, by the way. There are some interesting options. Will McDonald, the fourth, an edge rusher. The Buccaneers could certainly use one of those. People may say, hey, Anthony Richardson, what's going on with that? This is also a little bit telling as well, given the Lamar Jackson situation for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, Daniel Jeremiah is pretty freaking locked in around the NFL, so that's just kind of interesting. But people may say the Buccaneers should take quarterback Anthony Richardson, even if Tom Brady comes back, because Florida and all those different types of things. That'd be pretty wild. But that may be a discussion somewhere down the line. You also have Tyreek Stevenson, senior out of Miami. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to get a chance to take a look at him. He is a bigger corner than Forbes, 6 foot tall, 214 pounds, fast and tough. Maybe he might be an option at 19. And then you have some other guys later on down the line as well who could be potential options somewhere down the line. But overall, folks, I like the selection by DJ here of Emmanuel Forbes. And yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will also be talking about the Bucky Brooks mock draft that came out as well, and maybe a few other analysts for the draft somewhere down the line, their mock drafts as well. Maybe Mel Kiper. We'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about Emmanuel Forbes. Do you like the overall build of Forbes? Do you think he would be a good fit in Todd Bowles' defense? Do you think that he would be a good starting caliber cornerback next to Carlton Davis? Or do you feel that the Buccaneers should just re-sign a guy like Jamel Dean and go elsewhere? Maybe an edge rusher, maybe a quarterback, something along those lines. But anyway, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. And I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.